Hello everybody and welcome back to Witch's Castle. I am Will Castle, and today we're going to be looking at a personal favorite deck of mine. We are looking at Rowan Dragon Queen. That's what I call the deck. She's actually Rowan Scion of War. We'll get into why I call her Dragon Queen in a moment. But this deck is running Rowan Scion of War as the commander. So she is a black and a red for a 4/2 with Menace. She's a human wizard. And she says spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So the reason why I call her the Dragon Queen deck is because this deck is actually a Dragonstorm deck. Basically, the whole point of the deck is trying to search for and play this Dragonstorm after we've gotten a storm count of about 4 or 5, and using Rowan's ability to reduce the cost of that Dragonstorm to be able to attain it. It's a classic storm deck, with this being its big win con. It's just crapping out a bajillion big ridiculous dragons. This is an idea that I pilfered from a CEDH deck that did well overseas. This is by no means that list, but I pilfered the idea itself from that deck. So I'll go ahead and try and find it and link it down below in the description so you can see what the original CEDH version of this deck looks like. But this is my more casual personal version. So let's get into it. We're going to start all the way up top and work our way down. We've got one battle in here. It's just kind of a card refresher in terms of getting things into your hand. But one of the other things that also could let you do late game is the Pyre of the World tree flips over and lets you discard a land to deal 2 damage to any target. You can target yourself with this, actually. So if you don't need a bunch of the lands you happen to have in your hand, and you've got this flipped, and you just need a way to get a few life dinged out so that Rowan will make your spells cost less, you can pitch a land or two to dome yourself with this, or your opponents, and then it also will exile the top card of your library anytime you discard a land and let you play it that turn. So it'll give you another way to get kind of some card advantage. This deck struggles a little bit in the card advantage department because we're leaning so hard into the ouch part of it for ourselves and the storm aspect of it. Dragons, at least in this color combination, don't draw you a whole lot of cards, so leaning hard into that theme makes it harder for us to establish card draw. We need more random off instances like this that can let us both get card draw and harm our life totals for benefit, basically. Next up, we've got 2 Planeswalkers in the list right now. I've got the new Chandra from Foundations, the Flame Shaper. Just because she's got a ritual as her plus, if you can drain yourself down early enough to get this cast for just 2 mana and use her to make 3 with a cost reduction active with Rowan in play and exiling cards, it's a good card advantage engine. It's a good mana production. That's really the only part I cared about on her, if I'm being honest. A lot of Planeswalkers I've been playing recently have just been, hey, if that +1 or that -2, or if it's a +2 in that case as well, do the thing I want it to, then I'll probably play it just because they're fun, and sometimes there's enough people out there that still think of Planeswalkers as the boogeymen. They'll hard focus on that instead of taking out some of your other resources. Professor Onyx, on the other hand, is one that will make them significantly more afraid, for sure. So this one has the Magecraft ability. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This is one of the cards in here to help us recover some of the life we're choosing to lose in order to gain value. But she also gives us a life loss value in her. Her +1 is you lose 1 life, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. That's just card draw. It's card selection that dings you for a little bit of damage. It helps tick Rowan. -3 is each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power that player controls. Our life total is going to be super low throughout the whole game because we're draining it ourselves. Getting rid of the biggest power is probably the thing you worry about most when there is creatures in play. And again, we're not really worrying about the ult on this one. That's totally fine. Let's get into some of the creatures we have going on here, and you will see we have some spice. Dark Confidant, this is the full art one, but it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library, and you lose life equal to that card's mana cost and put it into your hand. It's Bob, you know it, and this is on our upkeep, so it will still count towards Rowan's as long as Rowan's in play already. So anywhere from, admittedly, sometimes 0 to 3 to 7, depending on some of these dragons, has an immediate ability to discount with Rowan is really helpful. Her ability is at sorcery speed, so there's a little bit of wiggle room for people to potentially kill it after you've already drained life before you get to activate it. I haven't seen, personally, a whole lot of that happening yet, but I haven't been playing it as a competitive deck. So we'll see. Maybe the more competitive spheres, people will know what to do with that. But I generally haven't had to worry about it too much. We've got Doom Whisperer in here to kind of shotgun through our own life totals and find cards that we need. There are some reanimation pieces in here, so it's totally fine to shotgun through a decent chunk of your deck and find ways to reanimate. I know Bladewing the Risen is in here to return dragons from our graveyard to play if we need to because something got lost along the way. We're also running Garna of the Bloodflame for the same reason. It's kind of a flash enabler to get those all back if any of them die when you don't want them to. It's also a good haste enabler if your other haste enabler dragon isn't there when you go to try and win the game. We've also gone ahead and put both of the defilers of in here. So I have Defiler of Flesh and of Instinct in here. Paying life to help cast permanents is just good objectively for this deck. I think they're two of the better cards from that whole set that go in this deck. Pretty happy with them so far. Arco-Flagellant is another one that is a lot of fun. I didn't realize this the first couple times that I built this, but things like Squad and Buyback down here on this Scarring Touch do count towards the costs of the cards being reduced. So when you use Rowan to reduce a black spell, but like, let's say 4, when you cast this, it's now 1 black pip to get 2 of these guys, because one of the squad costs is covered by the fact that Rowan reduces it by 4. It's like how X spells work the same way with this effect. I didn't know that when I first built this deck, and then I decided to add in Scarring Touch because I saw it all over the EDH rec. And I was confused initially, but further research, yeah, the buyback on this can be bought back with Rowan's ability. So you can use this just on an opponent a bunch of times if you have some open red mana and you've reduced your costs, or you can use it on yourself if you need to. But yeah, that's in here because we can make a bunch of these guys, and he's got an activated ability that pays life to keep them safe. So he's not here as a blocker, obviously. We can make a bunch of these guys and just use them to try and finish out the last couple bits of life total, or burn through our own life total and have a couple dudes around to give us a passive way to dome through our life. Now we're going to get into some of the spicier big dingus creatures in here. We're running Villas and Crick. It's a build your own Grizzlebrand, shoots yourself for life, draws cards. That's pretty straightforward. This is going to be one of the ways you try to find the cards you need to either cast Dragonstorm or just cast all of the dragons you need to win the game straight up. And there's a couple of dragons you want to prioritize when you go to do that. You're going to need the Utvara Hellkite, the Scourge of Valkus, a Lathlis, and a Dragon Lord Culligan at least. Those are going to be like the 4 dragons you're going to search for every time, and we'll go over why. We're going to start with Lathlis. She says whenever another non-token dragon enters under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon. So when you do the Dragonstorm, it puts separate instances of each of that spell on the stack. So you'll find one at a time, and you'll put this Lathlis into play first, because every other dragon you go to find is actually going to be 2 from that point forward. Next, you're going to go ahead and find Scourge of Valkus. When this guy or another dragon enters, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. You control both instances of that trigger on the stack, so what you're going to actually do is closer to 5 damage when this guy enters, because Lathlis will also make a dragon. So this guy will enter and do 2 and then 3 off of the token entering, because he doesn't say another non-token dragon. And that's the big part of why this is going to start to get out of control real quick. The third dragon you're going to look for is going to be Utvara Hellkite. It says whenever a dragon you control attacks, create a 6/6 red dragon. It will enter, trigger the Scourge, deal about 4 to an opponent, and then the token it makes off of Lathliss will enter and deal a handful more. And then the very last dragon you search for is Dragonlord Kolaghan. You never care about the bottom part of text on him, where it says whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, or a creature spell, the part where it says blah 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 if they cast a spell losing 10 life, that's related to cards that share the same name. That part never matters. We just care that this is a dragon that says give everything haste. Because now we have 4 of these dragons entering. 3 of them brought a 5/5 with them. And now when we attack, all 4 of them are going to bring a 6/6 with them as well. And the 5/5s that these guys brought also have haste off of Kolaghan. So those are our 4 kind of core dragons we're looking for. And then dependent on what the situation looks like, you can slot in some of these other flex slot dragons. Goldspan Dragon to help go ahead and make extra treasure. Same with Ganax. He's here to make a treasure off of every dragon ETB. He's usually the 5th one I go for if I'm going for a 5th dragon. Just because I want to make a bunch of treasure off of everything so I can protect myself if I can't win. Hoarding Broodlord's another way to go tutor for win conditions. You can go search for that if your dragon combat damage plan is not the way that's going to actually win you the game. Now we're going to sneak on down here to some of our cheekier big cost spells. We've got Brass's Bounty. It's ridiculous in this deck. If you can reduce the cost even down to like 2 or 3 while you have 5 lands in play, 3 mana make 5 treasures is really good. Dragonstorm, the win con. We also have the Elemental Eruption, the other Dragonstorm, so to speak. This is just kind of for cheeky nods at it. And sometimes, unironically, this card is the card you search for with Hoarding Broodlord. If your 5th dragon, when you're tutoring with your Dragonstorm, is Broodlord, you can go ahead and go get this. Your storm count will already be big because you had already cast another storm beforehand. So you'll even make even more dragons. This card just feels win more, but at the exact right time to win more. Sometimes you do need to win. Faithless Looting, just good. Torment of Hailfire, should have expected this. This is just, oops, I win the game in this deck. If you're getting super hosed on your dragon plan, this is your backup. Past in Flames is in here as a card to help us get that storm count up. It's going to really make sure that we can lock in on the Dragonstorm plan, and if it fails, give us a couple of different options to back it up and try again. Isengard Unleashed, this just makes a boatload of damage. All of those dragon triggers, we just love cards like this, and the extra 4 and 2 there really don't bug us a whole lot, because 4 and 2 are the numbers I see the most in terms of life I can consistently lose with this deck. It's usually between 2 and 4. Vandal Blast, the overload costs less, so Vandal Blasting everybody for 1 feels really good. Down here in our instance, we've got Battle Hymn for mana, Dark Ritual for mana, Blasts, Lightning Bolt for opponents, creatures, or ourselves, Scarring Touch for opponents, creatures, or ourselves, Vampiric Tutor as a tutor that also domes us for damage, March of Wretched Sorrow, because we're gonna need ways to gain back some of that life once people catch on to what we're doing. This is gonna be one of our ways that we're like, okay, I dumped a bunch of life and maybe can't win this turn, but I can certainly recoup it and try again next turn. Darkness is just fog, but in black, helps keep us alive a little bit. Crypt Incursion is just a personal favorite. Gaining 3 life for each card, exile, or creature card from a graveyard is just redonkulous. Blood for the Blood God. It costs 1 less for each creature that died this turn, and then you discard your hand, draw 8 cards, and then deal 8 damage to each opponent. This is just another one of those, okay, I dumped a bunch of life and don't have a card that says I win the game, but I certainly have a card that says I'm going to stick around long enough to try next turn. In our artifact suite, we don't have anything terribly spicy. We're running Illusionist Bracers because copying Rowan's ability is pretty good. And Rowan's ability is not actually a mana ability, so it does copy it if we equip it onto her. And then Wishclaw Talisman is just another tutor that I really like. And depending on what you go get with it, you can totally just choose to use it to tutor for a way to shut down the item itself. Yeah, search for it and then just go friggin' Vandal Blast it or something. Some of our enchantments in here. We've only got 3 for right now. There are some potential wiggle room later down the road. Return the Past is another flashback card. Festival of Embers is another flashback card. These are cards to try and let us keep the storm going and come back and win if we lose the ability to win that turn with it. And then Call of the Ring is just another, hey, pay 2 life and drawing cards engine. Losing life for consistency's sake to help keep Rowan consistently doing something. The turns where you can't lose any life on your own turn are the turns the deck will do basically nothing. And then our lands package. We're running Shocks and Fetches because you can use them to ding yourself. City of Brass because it can ding yourself. Glacial Chasm is a personal favorite card of mine. I've been playing this card in decks for years, and every time I see the hatred run across somebody's face when they see it, it fills me with glee. Yeah, and that's the overall deck. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty, it's Rakdos, burn yourself kind of advantage. It will garner some hatred every now and again because you will just once or twice go, oh, it's turn 4, and I can accidentally shotgun myself to 3 and win the game somehow. Because you'll draw your friggin' Torment of Hailfire sometimes at the right time. But if you really like playing around with your life total, using your life as a resource, and if you really like dragons, I think this is a cool deck for you. If you're a person who plays a lot of Izzet Storm decks that has been told that your friends don't like the color blue, come play this Storm deck instead, and they'll be begging you to go back to playing blue. And that's it, guys. Thank you all so much for swinging by. Again, I'm Will Castle. This is Witch's Castle. If you could do me a favor and go down and hit the subscribe button if you liked the video. If you could like the video if you liked the video. And if you could ding the bell if you liked the video, that would be super cool. All of those things help boost the algorithm. It makes it easier for somebody like myself and the people I'm working with to get further in terms of like interaction. I just want people to see the stuff more than anything. So if you would be able to do all those things, that would be great. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.